All right, everybody, welcome back. This is the Horn Takes podcast. You're very rough around the edges. Texas sports talk destination. I'm your host, Sean Redfern. It's Longhorn Friday, it's Prediction Friday, and we got a Fracas up in Ames tomorrow, folks. We'll do our Trace Otra games, week 12 today. Do 4 keys and a prediction for the Iowa State game today. And then we got some random college football stuff to talk about. Check us out on Twitter, Tik Tok, YouTube, at Horn Takes. You can listen to the podcast at Horn Takes, podcast.buzzsprout.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Trace Otra games, week 12. We were 2 for 3 last week, still pretty good. We had us a run. We had us a run of 3 straight 3-0 weeks. We were shooting for 3-0 last week to make it 4. Now we're shooting for our 4th time in 5 weeks to go 3-0. We're 22-11 on the season. Let's get into it. Number 21 K-State at number 25 KU. K-State's a 9.5-point favorite in this game. I think this line started at a 10.5-point favorite and has dropped down. Kansas State looking to stay alive in the Big 12 title race. Kansas looking to get back in the Big 12 title race. Long shot, but they could get back in it with a win over K-State and knock off their in-state rival for the first time since 2008. KU's a dangerous team when they're healthy, but they're a little bit banged up, man. We saw a lot of guys get banged up in that Texas Tech game last weekend. Jason Bean, will he be back? I saw some articles that they're hopeful, but I haven't seen anything, and honestly, I haven't looked too hard, but I haven't seen anything that says he will absolutely be back. I think K-State is going to look to punish Kansas on the ground. And outside of that Texas game, K-State's been absolutely killing people in Big 12 play. I know they lost to Oklahoma State, but other than that, they've been murdering people. I like K-State to get it done on Saturday. We got K-State 38-30 over KU. Number 5, Washington at number 11, Oregon State, 6:30 p.m. kick on ABC. Oregon State's was a 2.5-point favorite. I couldn't believe it. When I started building the outline for this show yesterday, 2.5-point favorite. Now it's down to 1. Well, it was this morning down to 1. I haven't looked at it lately. It's a big game for Pac-12 title implications, and it could be a really big game for college football playoff implications. Right now, Washington undefeated, get beat by an Oregon State team. I don't know if you're up in the top 4 anymore. I don't even know if you're on the outside looking in. Oregon State's got to win out to play in the Pac-12 title game. I think if they were to beat Washington and Oregon State, I think that would create a 3-way tie. They'd have head-to-head. I would think that would get them in, but I don't know. I do not know all the Pac-12 tiebreak rules. That's why I hate these big-ass conferences. These big-ass conferences that either don't have divisions or you don't play everybody. I don't even know how you say you got a champion. We've seen this Washington team be really good, but they've kind of sputtered a little bit lately. Ever since that Oregon game, they've kind of looked less than. I don't know if that's just it's that time of the season. I don't know if that's just I don't know what that is, but they have not looked as impressive here lately as they did earlier in the season. Texas fans, man, we'd love nothing more than for Oregon to knock off Washington on Saturday. I think that's what all Texas fans are pulling for. I don't think we're that lucky. We're going to take the upset, and again, it's weird to say this. The much higher ranked team is on upset alert. on the road. We're going to take the upset, though. Washington wins another close one. We're going to say 31-27 over Oregon State. Game number 3. And, folks, there's not a lot of good games this weekend. Not a lot of ranked games this weekend. Last weekend was pretty good. This weekend is all right, I guess. But it could be worse, I guess. Anyway, game number 3, we got number 1 Georgia on the road at number 18 Tennessee. 2:30 p.m. kick on CBS. Georgia's a 10-point favorite. We talked about it last week. Georgia was one of our games last week, and we talked about how we thought they were going to start looking impressive at the right time. It's getting down to the end of the season. They've had their growing pains getting to where they're at, but this really talented Georgia roster started getting impressive. That's what we thought was going to happen. That's absolutely what happened, and they are. They're getting impressive at the right time. Tennessee's looking to beat Georgia for the first time since 2016. I think Tennessee's only hope is to absolutely ambush Georgia, and by that I mean they're going to have to force a lot of early turnovers and convert them to a lot of early touchdowns. I think Tennessee needs to get like a 21, 28-point lead and then just try to hang on. Get Georgia like really one-dimensional. I think that's the only hope. If Georgia can get in and settle in and get that running game going, Tennessee doesn't have much of a shot. I'll just put it to you that way. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Georgia's going to absolutely roll in this game. I got Georgia 41, Tennessee 16. 4 keys in a prediction. Iowa State. Texas, y'all better know what's coming. We talked about it yesterday. Y'all better know what's coming. Y'all beat Bama, but you're not Bama right now. And what I mean by that is I think Alabama and Georgia can win games before they walk out onto the field. I think there's certain games where they just intimidate their opponents. That's clearly not happening with Texas right now. Clearly. Y'all aren't scaring anybody, and that's okay. I'm not saying you should scare people. Iowa State's certainly not afraid. Or maybe they are. Maybe they are afraid, and maybe that's why they're flapping their gums the way they are. I don't know. I don't think they're afraid. The last time Texas went up to Ames, Iowa, they got their asses taxed. And then last season at home, Texas had to have some late game heroics. I don't even call them heroics. They just forced a turnover late. They kind of sealed that deal. So I don't think this Iowa State team is intimidated by Texas whatsoever. Y'all better be ready for that. The team better be ready for that. Matt Campbell hates some Texas. So the coaching staff better be ready for that. Know what's coming. Key number 1. Key number 2, be your best self. I know that sounds like a really lame, like self-help mantra thing or something. It's like what, I don't know. It's like what middle-aged people say. They're going to go be their best self today. But really what I mean by that is Texas just needs to play to their potential to win this game. They don't have to do anything more than what is their potential. They don't need any heroics. They don't need anybody to do anything any better than they're capable of doing it to go win this game. I think Texas has a better coaching staff. Texas has a better roster. Just go do your job for 60 minutes, and you'll leave Ames, Iowa with a blowout win. Do your job consistently for 60 minutes. You'll leave Ames, Iowa with a blowout win. Key number 3, attack that freshman QB. Man, I've been critical of this late game, second half, late in the first half. Anytime where, like, you don't want the team to score, Texas seems to go to this really soft man coverage where the cornerbacks are already lined up off the ball, and then they bail at the snap, or they go to zone coverage, which, I mean, honestly, we're just not good at it. I'm not saying zone is a bad idea. I'm not saying zone's a bad scheme. I'm saying this Texas secondary is just not good at it. They get lost. They blow coverages. They miss tackles. It just doesn't work. And I don't know that continuing to try to force that square peg through a round hole is going to yield the results that you guys want it to yield. So what I think would be really cool, I know that front four is going to get after the quarterback the best they can. And the interior gets a lot of pressure. At times, the outside guys get pressure. I know we'll see the occasional linebacker blitz. Might see a rare defensive back blitz off the edge. I would like to see PK just flip the script on this deal. Maybe not go zero coverage, but a lot of really tight man coverage and just go after this kid. Get in Beck's face early, make him uncomfortable, and make him beat you with contested throws. Sit back and give up all these quick and easy throws. I feel like you're neutralizing your best advantage, which is that defensive line, because they don't have time to get there. And you just make it too damn easy on the quarterback. Man, some of these throws that these guys are making against Texas in these games, they're not hard throws. I mean, you don't have to be good to throw the ball to wide open people. So attack this freshman QB. That's got to be key number 3. Key number 4, leave no doubt. A lot of Texas fans, we've been focused on the college football playoff, been excited about, everybody's talking about scenarios and what happens if this happens and what happens if that happens. I mean, we've talked about it on this show a lot. And honestly, I think if somehow a one-loss team gets in and it's not Texas, the reasons are going to be pretty simple. One, they didn't take care of business against OU, but that's not really playing into this scenario because we're talking about one-loss teams. The real reason is because they've left a whole lot of doubt. They played a lot of close games. They've played close games against teams they shouldn't have played close games against. And not only that, it's not just that you play a close game, it's that you have had control in all of these games. And you spend the whole second half just trying to hang on, as opposed to just continuing to have control of the game. I think Texas needs to pour points all over Ames until the last second ticks off the clock, if they can. The Texas defense needs to continue to punish the Iowa State offense until the last second ticks off the clock. Iowa State should walk off the field at Jack Trice Stadium Saturday wishing that they didn't have to ever play Texas. And really, really glad that they don't ever have to play Texas again. That's what leaving no doubt means. Texas owes Iowa State an ass whooping for that deal 2 years ago up there in Ames. And I think Texas owes it to themselves after the last few games, the last 4 weeks where they've played 3 kind of stinkers in the second half. I think they owe it to themselves to go prove that they can do it as well. Let's talk a little prediction. I feel like this Iowa State team is like kind of unreasonably contentious towards Texas. I mean, these two teams haven't played a lot. They don't have a long history. We're not talking about in-state schools. And Iowa State's never, like, Texas has never ruined anything for Iowa State. I think a lot of that is just really Matt Campbell and his his us against the world attitude and his 5-star culture, motivational tactics. He's just done a really good job Matt Campbell has done a really good job of finding a way to get these guys motivated to play against teams they shouldn't be able to play with. And I think that's admirable. I think, again, I think that's where a lot of this animosity towards Texas stems from. It's kind of like manufactured, and that's okay. You do what you got to do, right? Like, I'm not hating on Matt Campbell for hating on Texas. He either, like I've said it before, he either legitimately hates Texas, which is okay. It doesn't bother me, or he's just playing that card so hard that it really looks that way. I think Iowa State has a really stout defense, and they employ a defensive scheme that's, ever since Steve Sarkisian's got to the Big 12, got to Texas, he struggled against it. It's giving him fits. Some games they can't pass against it. Some games they can't run against it. Some games they can't do either one against it. It makes you be patient. Steve Sarkisian's not patient. I think Iowa State would love nothing more than to be the team that derails Texas's Big 12 title hopes, derails any last shred of college football playoff hopes they have. We talked about it the other day. This game is a must-win for Texas. Big 12 championship. Like, you don't win this one, you're fixing to be in some weird-ass tie. We were talking about it earlier in the show today. All these stupid-ass big conferences with no divisions playing all these weird schedules where everybody doesn't play, and then having all these funky tiebreak rules to try to make sense of the whole mess that's left over at the end. That could come up and bite Texas huge. But I don't think any of that's going to happen. I think Texas finally puts together a complete game against an inferior opponent. We've seen them play a complete game against Bama. Despite the turnovers and all that shit that happened in the Oklahoma game, I feel like, the team battled hard for 4 quarters. The coaching staff, I don't know. Still pretty upset at PK for a few things at the end of that. Well, anyway, we'll get off that. I think that we're going to see this Texas team put together 4 full quarters of football. I think the O-line's going to step up. And despite the fact that Jonathan Brooks is out for the rest of the season, I think we're going to see this running game roll on Saturday night. Ewers, Mitchell, and Worthy, I think they're going to give the Cyclone secondary just absolute fits all night. Horn Takes podcast score predictor says Texas wins this game 30-17. Couple random college football thoughts. Sideline reporter Clarissa Thompson, and I don't even know who this person is, has a lot of people pissed off. I think she went on some kind of podcast and admitted that she makes up like half the shit she says on the sideline reports. And I made that number up too. I think what she actually said was something like, sometimes we make this stuff up. And she's getting banged up hard, especially from like journalist type folks all over the interwebs. And I think mainly from, like, no surprise, like other sideline reporters, they obviously don't feel that Clarissa holds their same values, and they don't want Clarissa speaking for them. I am obviously not a journalist. I freaking do podcasts and not very well sometimes, and I'm not on TV or anything crazy like that. But I respect what journalists do. But I think a lot of people claim to be journalists that aren't journalists. And folks, sideline reporters are not journalists. You can be mad if you want to. Sideline reporters are not journalists. I don't care if they do a shit ton of homework for the game. I don't care if they talk to players and coaches all week before the game. They're not journalists. Some of them might be legit journalists outside of their role as a sideline reporter. Like some of these sideline reporters might do stories during the week, might I don't know, write books. There's all kinds. They may have like a show like this. I don't know. But sideline reporting itself is not journalism. All sideline reporting does is ask the same stupid ass questions every single game for like the last 40 years. I don't know how long sideline journalists have been a thing. Quick Google search seems to think like 40 years ago ish. So all that role really is, to me, is just asking a lot of really dumb questions. Hey, coach, y'all couldn't run the ball at all in the first half. What can you do to get to run the ball in the second half? I mean, you can see some coaches. Some coaches don't have a poker face, and you can see on their face like just how incredibly stupid they feel like what they are being asked is. And I'm a person with not a lot of patience either. And honestly, I would rather be up in the locker room, like figuring out some stuff for the second half than talking to somebody that's going to ask me a bunch of really stupid questions and then call it journalism. So they ask a lot of stupid questions. They make us miss plays all the time because they're doing those dumbass sideline interview things, or they're doing the, oh, so-and-so went into the tent and he's obviously hurting. No shit. Or the new one, you know, teams don't release injuries. So we'll try to find out as much as we can about that. But he's obviously in a lot of pain as he's heading into the locker room. That's not journalism, folks. All you people that are pissed off at Carissa, y'all need to stop being pissed at her. And y'all need to start being pissed off that there's even sideline reporters to begin with. I mean, like, my game watching experience has never been improved by the fact that there's a sideline reporter. You know what else sucks in football broadcast today? Those, oh, let's analyze this penalty and let's bring in expert official guy to tell us the rules of college football. That's real fucking dumb too. But you know what? That is even better than sideline reporters. And I want to be real clear of a few things. Like, when I say sideline reporters, I don't mean just the ladies. I mean even the dudes that are down there doing that dumb shit. I do not mean to say that you shouldn't be proud that you have a job doing sideline reporting. I'm not saying you can't jumpstart a career in legit journalism by being, I mean, I think it's a job where you pay your dues. I think that's what type of role it is. It's like a pay your dues type job. There's nothing wrong with paying your dues. Just don't put it on a pedestal above what it really is and act all pissed off when someone who probably thinks it's a stupid job too says, I just make up a lot of this shit because I can't really talk to the coaches that much. Harbaugh accepts his suspension. Will not be an appeal. Will not be a hearing. Man, a lot of people think that's a positive thing. I don't. I think, to me, that means there's just more shady shit that went on with this whole Michigan sign stealing scandal. Then we find out this morning that the linebacker coach, Chris Partridge, he got canned this morning. Really? Really, Michigan? Really, Harbaugh? You're going to make the linebacker coach the fall guy for all this shit? I mean, I can't imagine he got fired because his linebackers are bad. They've got one of the statistically best defenses in the country. And I know I've been bagging on the Big Ten offenses and saying, maybe the defense in the Big Ten isn't as good as it appears to be. But I still think some of those defenses are good. Like, I still think Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State have good defenses. I just don't think they're as good as they look like when you watch those teams play each other. I think it's a lot of bad offense. A lack of, like, big-time playmakers on offense on some of those teams. So Chris Partridge didn't get fired because his linebackers aren't playing well. He got fired because they didn't want Jim Harbaugh to get fired. And maybe something will come out to change my mind on that, but that's sure a bad look. Sure is some weird timing. We're going to accept this suspension, which hopefully gets everybody talking about something else and hopefully slows down or stops altogether any kind of more digging, more investigation into what really happened, which was probably some really, really shady shit. And then we'll go ahead and appease some people and we'll fire Chris Partridge. That is a bad look for Michigan, my opinion. Maybe some more stuff will come out. Maybe he was the ringleader. I don't know. College football playoff committee is incentivizing the wrong things, folks. We talked about this a little bit earlier this week. But the more and more I think about this whole one-loss team, who should be ranked ahead of who, the more and more I hear about how Alabama is just so much better now than they were at the beginning of the season. And if, some guy on ESPN says if they played on a neutral field today, I would have Alabama as a 10-point favorite. It's got me to thinking, like, what? They're basically saying going on the road and beating a top 10 team out of conference doesn't mean anything. Because you can always just come back and say, oh, well, that team just looks better now. I mean, yeah, they played each other, and the team that wasn't supposed to win went on the road and won that game by double digits. But if they were to play today on a neutral field, I think Bama would be a 10-point favorite. And there's no doubt that Bama would win that game. That's what they're saying. That's what all these guys are saying. And it's okay to say that. Except when you say that, you just completely diminish the fact that in reality, a team went on the road and played another team in their house that was favored to win a game, and they beat that team by double digits. So what's the point in playing the fucking game? Why would anybody schedule big-time non-conference matchups if when you go and win those games, you don't get any reward for it at all? I mean, we give programs shit all the time. Everybody gives the SEC team shit all the time about how they don't play anybody out of conference. But when a team does go and play somebody out of conference, and they do beat a really good team, and by the way, this applies across. This is not just a Texas and Alabama conversation. This is just a conversation in general about the message we're sending and the message the committee's sending. What's the point in doing it? SEC seems to be ahead of their time. If that's the stance we're going to take, If the stance we're going to take is what you did in reality doesn't match what my perception is a few weeks later of what would happen now, then why risk it? Why not just take another home game, play some bum team, blow them out 70-0, like Oregon did? And then if you lose, at least you blew everybody out though. So now, man, that's the most impressive one-loss team right there. I don't get it. I don't understand how any of that shit makes any sense at all. And we said it before, man. The committee has painted themselves into a corner. I don't know what possessed them to ever think that Oregon was a better team than Texas or Alabama. When you look at those two teams' schedules and who they've played and what they've done with those schedules, I don't know how you look at an Oregon State or an Oregon team that the best thing they've done this season is barely lose to Washington. And the close second to that was they beat a Utah team that doesn't have a starting quarterback. That's Oregon's resume. They blew out Portland like 81-0 or some crazy shit. They went on the road to Texas Tech and barely got out of there alive. Few teams have done that this year. If you're not gonna count the games, what's the point in playing the fucking games? If you're just gonna go back and say, oh well, if they played now, the other team would win, then what's the point in having played the game? Check us out on Monday. We'll have Exaggeration Monday, and we may have to combine some stuff. It's a short week next week. I forgot. It's Turkey Week next week. We'll be traveling on Thursday. We're headed down to Austin on Thursday. We'll be at the game on Friday against Texas Tech. We'll do our Trace Otra games recap for Week 12. Drunk Sean is going to tell you all about this Iowa State game. Check out the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. And check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Follow and subscribe. Won't cost you guys a thing. I would really appreciate the support. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. You guys have a good Longhorn Friday. Hook them up. Let's go beat those Cyclones. Get hooked.